Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Unconditional Self-Love in Your 40s with myself, Tilly Reid. I hope you are well. I'm doing okay. I'm working, doing some rehearsals, went to an audition last night. That was quite fun. It's always lovely to get back into doing some acting and even just an audition. Although it's so scary, it is. You never lose the nervousness of getting up in front of people and speaking. But I tried to flip those nerves into excitement and just think, well, if nothing else, I get to go for an evening and just do some acting with some fellow actors. And I love that. And actually, it went really well. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we shall see. But apart from that, not been doing much else. So what do I want to talk about this week? I want to talk about periods. Yeah, periods. I think that it's good to talk about them. I think that, hearing other women's stories is important as we talk about them, It was definitely more of a hush-hush thing when I was younger. I don't remember really it being spoken about, and there's obviously definitely been more women coming out, definitely when you're getting in, I am in my perimenopause phase, and I want to talk about it. I want people to hear my story, what I've been through, how it's affected me. Yeah, and also I am going to end this podcast with some of the actual positives of going through your perimenopause, because it's always good to end on a positive note. But I also just want to share, because like I say, I do think it's important to share these stories. But, I was talking to a colleague at work who's in her 20s, and I was sort of talking about my story, and she was like, oh God, is that what I've got to come? And I was like, well, no, not necessarily. And that's the thing with periods. As you get older, as you get into your 40s, sometimes earlier, literally everybody is different. What I experience might not be the same as to what you experience. And some women might really suffer. Some women might sail through the perimenopause phase. It's just, and the not knowing can be quite scary, I think, this expectation of what's to come. But I do think there is an element to looking after yourself. We all know this, we've had it drilled into us how to look after ourselves. And I do think those things do help. I'm not suffering too badly at the moment with other symptoms. I went through a phase of having quite bad brain fog and fatigue, but it was discovered that I had some thyroid issue, so that was probably down to that, not my perimenopause symptoms. But yeah, I definitely still get moments when I forget things and I have memory blocks, and you just forget the words for things, and you just stood there going, yeah, the thing, the thing. What's the name? Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. But today I want to focus on periods and my personal story with them. So when you were younger, all the women were taken off, all the young girls were taken off and had a little chat about periods and what to do. And at school, I just remember it just being a little bit embarrassing. And I actually came on my period. I remember I was going on holiday with my mum and dad, and we used to drive to the south of France. And on the way down, we used to stop at, because it's obviously quite a long journey, because my dad would drive there because my mum doesn't like to fly. And we would stop at a little hotel on the way. And it happened there. I remember, I think it must have been when I woke up the next day or when I was going to sleep. I can't quite remember which. And I remember just being like, Mum. Obviously, I knew what was going on. You know, I understood what was going on. But, you know, it's still one of those moments where you're like, oh God, I'm bleeding. What? And it did kind of ruin the holiday for me. I remember, because I hadn't quite got to grips with using tampons yet. So obviously it was pads all the way, and they weren't as good as they were now, put it that way. You know, they were a bit big and bulky, and, you know, I was on holiday. I wanted to go swimming and like have fun, and instead I was dealing with my first period. So that was my first experience of coming on. I think I was about 14, and struggled with it a little bit through school. I always had fairly heavy periods, and I used to get just embarrassed about them. I don't even, you know, every woman goes through them, but there was just this sort of hushed tones to them, and, you know, I wouldn't really talk about them with my girlfriends. It was just something that you just kind of try to get on with. I did want to start to use tampons though, so that was quite interesting. Teaching myself and getting those really small, tiny, mini ones and trying to use them. So I got to grips with them, and I did get to grips with them. And actually, that was a godsend. And I don't really remember having many more issues after that. I eventually went on the pill. I think I was in my early 20s. And I can't even remember how long I was on that for, but I was on that for quite a few years. I was on a pill that just, it agreed with me completely, you know, and I know some women have had so many issues with pills for all sorts of reasons, and I did not. It was amazing for me. I pretty much sailed through my 20s and mostly into my 30s as well. And I liked that I knew exactly when I was coming on. I could sometimes take 2 packs in a row if I was going away, so I didn't have to deal with having a period. Honestly, it wasn't that heavy. It was fine. So Q, sort of mid-30s, late 30s, I think. I came off the pill. I think I thought I'd been on there I've been on it too long. I didn't want to continue to be on it, so I came off it. And I wasn't in a relationship. I didn't need to be on it for any reason. And sort of got into my 40s, and my periods started to change. Yay, fun for me. So cue heavy, more painful, longer, periods. So I tried to go, because I'm in my 40s, they do recommend that you go on progesterone only pill. So I went on that, and that made me bleed like all the time. Like all the time. Not heavily, but it was just this constant, I had to wear a pad like all the time, like pretty much every day. And I can't remember, I think I took the pill for a fair bit until I realised, I was like, this isn't working for me. And my periods were still quite heavy. They were getting heavier than they'd ever been. And I thought, well, I'll try the coil. Give that a go. So I went and got the coil fitted. This was quite a few years ago now. I had the Marina coil, which is the one that is releases progesterone. Honestly, it wasn't as bad an experience as I thought it was going to be. I know there are horror stories out there about it, and I know that some women find it very painful. It was uncomfortable. It was just like, for me, it was just like fairly uncomfortable period pain. It wasn't much more than that. So I think I was quite lucky in that sense. So I had that fitted, and I remember the first 3 months, it was fine. It was fine. I was thinking, oh wow, I bled a little bit, and I thought, this is fine. And then I started bleeding again, and still was having fairly heavy periods and still continuing to bleed and having to wear a pad. I just had to constantly wear period pants and pads. This was, I don't even know how long, because I started taking the pill, for a while, came off that, went on the coil. I was on the coil for nearly a year. I tried it for a year because I thought I need to give this a good run, because people said it can take a really long time. But I continued to bleed heavily. I know it was very frustrating because, you read all these articles about, 70% or I think it might be more of women, if they have the coil fitted, will have either lighter periods or stop their periods. That wasn't the case for me. I was in that small percentage of women who continue to bleed heavily and for longer. So I did stick it out. I really, really, really tried to stick it out for a year, and then I couldn't do it any longer. I was so fed up. This was the point where I was suffering quite heavy fatigue, and just I couldn't cope with it. So I tried to get it taken out. The doctors had a very long waiting list, which was not great. I ended up going to a sexual health clinic in Lincoln, where I live. I ended up getting an appointment there, and they were amazing in there. It's actually easier to have it taken out. That was easier. But they also, I will go back, when I had the coil in, because of the heavy bleeding, I got sent for an ultrasound to check, and they did find, they said the coil's in place, but I do have either a fibroid or a polyp. So that could be causing the irregular heavy bleeding. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So I've had the coil out. My periods have definitely gone back to normal, and I say normal in inverted commas, as in they last, up to a week, but that's still better than it was before, and they still can be heavy, but they're definitely better than they were. So I'm currently in a position where I'm waiting for, I'm going to an appointment with at the hospital to have my fibroid looked at. So fingers crossed, I'm keeping everything crossed that can be sorted, and then the heavy bleeding. Because the heavy bleeding is it can just completely wear you out. Like I'm on my period now, and yesterday, oh God, it was awful. It was so awful. And, when you're completely bleeding through pads and almost through period pants, it's not nice. And, you're trying to do all the things that lead a normal life. I always used to make everyone laugh about the old tampon adverts, where they used to have women roller skating and doing all the things. And mainly we would all be like, nah, I just want to be at home with a hot water bottle. That would be bliss. Because those first few days, you don't, I'm sorry, there's no rollerblading happening for me. Absolutely not. It definitely takes it out of me. And I'm hoping, like I say, that things will be improving soon. Because, when you get to your perimenopause, you can have all sorts of issues. As we know, our hormones are going up and down and up and down, and having a whale of a time on that roller coaster, basically. So you can get all sorts of symptoms from your period. I'm not going to go into them. Like I say, my new ones have been heavy and much more painful as well, which is not nice. I can see why some women have struggled in the past and, need days off work from it, because sometimes when it hits, it can completely take it out of you. So I'm sort of looking towards the future with a more positive note. I'm hoping that things are going to improve. I'm sure they will. But I also wanted to end this podcast on some of the positives of your perimenopause, because it's always good to end on a high note, isn't it? So some of the positives are your periods end. I mean, that's something to look forward to, isn't it? Just not having to worry about, having pads or tampons on you, or, when they do start to get irregular, you don't know when they're going to come. And you could have, you have accidents. I've had accidents, and I think, God, I'm in my late 40s now, and I was going through this when I was a teenager. What the hell? But they end. Oh, bliss. This also means a freedom from your PMS symptoms. Gone are the painful stomach cramps. Gone are the migraines. If you get migraines, I sometimes do get headaches the first few days. And they'll go too. Oh my God, this is sounding like heaven, honestly. I've also heard that, from various stories from women as they've gotten older and gone through the menopause, you get an increased confidence, which sounds amazing. And I just think that one thing that you have every month, you do get, we get used to it in a way. Obviously we do. And it changes as we go through these different phases in our lives. And now we're in our 40s, it's changing again before it stops. And I think that freedom it must bring when it stops must be incredible. Because you just think you could go anywhere and do anything and not have to worry about having a period at any point. I mean, that's amazing, and I'm sure that creates a lot more empowerment and self-focus for women as they go into that phase. I, for one, cannot wait. Not like I'm counting the years or anything. I mean, I'm 47 now. My mum went through her menopause at 52. It's always good to know if you can. It's always good to ask that question and find out. It might be different for my mum than it was for me, because I know she had children. I've not had children, so that might make a difference. But I do think it's always fairly similar, when you'll go through it to when your mum went through it. So yeah, that's always good to know. But I just wanted to share that story, to put it out there. It's good to talk about it. Let's not be shamed about these periods. I think it was a fact recently that came to light that, they'd only, even in period adverts, they used to use that blue dye. And I've only recently started seeing they're using red. And now they're being tested with actual blood. I mean, wow. Only recently that has happened. And I do have to say that I'm really thankful for all the period products that are coming out there as well. For the young women, it is amazing to have all that choice, not only tampons and pads. We've got period pants now. We've got actually washable pads. We've got moon cups, all these amazing products that I just didn't have when I was younger. So it's lovely to see that coming through. So thank you for listening. I'll be back next week with another episode. Hello, welcome to my 3 joys of the week. What are they this week? Number 1, seeing the sunrise. When it's pink, it just looks beautiful. I'm just getting up at just that exact right time at the moment when I open my curtains and the sun is, I think it's sort of coming up, and there's just this beautiful pink, really dusky pink sky. It's so beautiful. Number 2, the blossom trees. All the gorgeous pink trees are out at the moment. There's a pink theme at the moment, isn't there? And it just looks beautiful. I love it. My garden has exploded. Because I moved house into this house in November, so I'm now seeing all this beautiful plants and these pink flowers that are growing, and it's just lovely to see. I mean, who doesn't love spring? And number 3, seeing as I've talked about periods on the podcast, is when you start to reach that ovulation phase. You know what I'm talking about, ladies. You know what I'm talking about. It is like I become a different woman. It's incredible. Because you'll have your period phase and you'll be like, I feel tired, I feel a bit shit, I feel like, can't cope. And then it's like this, over the next couple of weeks, there's this build of energy. And then you get to the ovulation phase, which is obviously, when you would be the most fertile. So I just become like a machine. I just get shit done. And it is great. And I love that feeling. I love feeling like you could just take on the world. So, those are my 3 joys of this week. Thank you. Bye.